Okay, everybody, welcome to another episode of O365Eh. Today's episode is about the August 10th announcement of Microsoft Teams launching in the Canadian data center residency. Also coming is Australia and Japan, but there hasn't been a specific date for those particular data centers. So we're just going to roundtable here with the guys and discuss, what this what this actually means for customers and, what data is affected. So, Curtis, maybe you can give us a talk about the data.
Yeah, so, first of all, I think we have to talk about why this is important. And a number of companies in regulated industries such as healthcare, public governments, even insurance, where the data resides at rest, what data center really matters. So it's really important that they have data residency in specific countries. Usually it's the country where the company's headquartered. So this has always been a bit of an issue with Teams in that the conversation and chat data is stored in the team chat service, and that always wasn't available in every country. So with this announcement, they're expanding the geos that Teams will be available in. There's a whole roadmap to expand it globally, but this one, the August 10th announcement specifically is for Canada. And the type of data this affects is specifically, as I mentioned, Teams core data, which is conversations and chats used in channels. And it does not cover the files that are shared in Microsoft Teams, specifically in a meeting chat or a private conversation. Those files are stored in OneDrive, and then any files in a channel are stored in the associated SharePoint Online site. So this is specifically chat-based conversation data. And so it's really important for companies to have that residency, and that this announcement allows Teams to expand the number of geos where that's available.
Yeah, and just while you were talking about expanding globally, that same August 10th announcement, it actually does say that Australia and Japan should be lighting up before the end of August. So, that is not too far behind Canada. And then South Korea, France is going to be in 2019, and then they have a teaser saying that there's going to be more after that.
And I guess to your point, Curtis, where you mentioned that the files are stored in SharePoint and OneDrive, and for a company to ensure that all of the the files are within their data residency, if they're currently in a North America data center, then they would need to have those also moved into the Canadian data center to be completely resident. Within Canada itself, right?
Yeah, organizations are going to be asking themselves, okay, where's my data stored, right? So if you go into your Office 365 admin portal or Microsoft 365 admin center, you can go under Settings, Organization Profile, and you can see your different workloads. So your Exchange, SharePoint, Skype for Business, Microsoft Teams, and you can see what data region those are in today.
And just to clarify something that Habib said, of course, Canada is in North America, and we're talking before.
Yeah.
North America is the term they chose a while ago, and I think in this context it means U.S., right? And now expanding into Canada, there's a specific Canada geo region in North America, which I think is meant to be U.S., right?
I think they dubbed the North America for the Americas, right? North and South. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And also important to note that, if the data residency doesn't apply to your company, that, you should think carefully about, making that selection just for the sake of making it. Microsoft states that, by selecting the data center closest to your country doesn't necessarily guarantee better performance either. So it just simply means that the data will not leave the residency of Canada, for example. So if you live in Toronto and you have a company there and your tenant is, you think you're going to get better performance, it's not necessarily true. You're probably better off to just leave the default settings alone, as Microsoft then will replicate data for disaster recovery purposes as well. So I would probably suggest that unless you have the requirement to do that, I would just leave the setting alone and not kick off the migration process.
Now, just reading this announcement, August 10th is a very important date, specifically for Canadian customers. Habib, can you explain that one?
Yeah, so basically what it means is that if you have your Office 365 tenant lit up and you're happy with it, everything's good. If you have not touched Teams at all prior to August 10th, so you've not flipped the switch off and nobody's actually signed in and started chatting, posting stuff within Teams, then your Teams service has not been initiated. So as of August 10th, if you then flip the switch to turn on Teams and enable users for Teams, you'll automatically be moved into the Canadian data residency service. So you'll be automatically provisioned within that, right? So, I mean, there's a couple of different options if you haven't done that. So if you previously have enabled Teams prior to August 10th and have been using it for a certain amount of time, there's definitely a couple of options that you can go through that will help get your data over. Maybe Michael, you can talk about that.
Yeah, so I mean the default one is Microsoft's gonna allow customers to toggle a switch come 2019 to say, hey, I want to nominate myself to be part of this data move process, but that can take about 24 months. So companies that are on more of an aggressive, I need my data sovereignty, they're going to have to go on the more aggressive side. So Had could probably talk to his experience with this, but the one is basically wipe your team's data and start from scratch, which is pretty aggressive. Had, do you want to talk about kind of that process and how that?
Yeah, I just recently had a client of mine that we were waiting for the announcement, but obviously they had started. The IT team was just doing some testing and validation, getting all the policies correct and stuff like that. So when the announcement came out, they posted, hey, we have Teams available. Everybody want to start using it. But then, obviously when you go and read through the blog article, it says, okay, well, anybody previous, you don't really, you have a couple of options. One, you wait for, fiscal or calendar year 19 for when you can move it over for 24 months, or you basically have them scorch all the team data and then start over. So, we made the conscious decision to scorch the data because we hadn't really started using it a substantial amount. So we're going through that re-provisioning with the fast track team in order to help, expedite it to provision the Canadian data center.
So did you create a support ticket through the portal and then to initiate Fast Track, or were you just were you already working with Fast Track?
Yeah, we were already working with the Fast Track team. So, you would definitely have to get involved with your Microsoft account rep, and they will, connect you with the Fast Track team to help, get that moving, get that process moving for you.
And the option of scorching the data sounds aggressive, and it is especially if you're using Teams in production. But specifically that using Teams, the exact wording of it is if any user had ever accessed Teams in the tenant, your data residency was chosen for you. So I can imagine a lot of companies might have just POC'd, or a couple of people just proof of concept tried it out, and their data residency was chosen willy-nilly. So scorching that data probably wouldn't be that bad of a.
You think of it, you get an E3 or an E5 assigned to a user. They have Teams by default turned on, right. And if they ever joined a Teams meeting from outside, they would have fired up their client, been prompted to sign in. They would have signed in, and your data residency has been selected.
Yeah, I know several companies in Canada where that happens. So that's definitely a common use case. All right, what else should we talk about on this subject? So we got I mean, for other countries, as Michael said, Australia, Japan coming. Stay tuned. They're coming soon.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note again that you know the move is pretty seamless to the user. I think you know probably the thing they'll notice is if they're signed in at the time of the move in Skype for Business, that they'll probably be signed out, and then within a minute or two they'll be signed back in. But I think Microsoft's doing it in such a way that it shouldn't be user impactful.
And just a comment about this 24 months. That's essentially what we've read now. That seems like an incredibly long time. I imagine it could happen sooner. Like there's nothing set in stone that it will take 24 months. I would assume that's the outer worst case scenario.
I think that's just Microsoft's trying to be conservative and, worst case scenario type.
Yeah. And it's added into the core, I guess the core Office 365 migration, right? Which is, Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, and then now would be Teams included in that 24 months, I guess, timeline.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they wrap that move program around with a time expiry. So I know previously when they lit up the Canadian data centers for Office 365, there was this short 90-day period where customers can opt to move their tenants from the US to Canada. But once that period ended, those existing customers didn't have the ability to opt into that data move program. So I'm wondering if in 2019, when this lights up in tenants, if there's going to be a short period where you can opt in to move Teams and the rest of your data to Canada, or if it's, forever allowed.
Yeah, my understanding is it will, when you log into the admin side, at some point it will prompt you to, if you want to move your data over, and then you'll have at that point to start the migration process. But other than that, that's all that I really.
And choose wisely, because once you move, you make the option to move. There's no moving back. So it's like Hotel California.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, great talk tonight, and thanks everybody for listening in, and hopefully we'll catch you on the next one.
See you guys. Take care.
See ya.